Hello, everybody. This is Jason Thornton, bringing you some great information that's really going to help you. The title of this training is called Boosting Your Annual Premium or Boosting Your AP. And, the reason why we wanted to bring this to you is because in the past we've had some agents who make great sales and have a high closing ratio, but I've had agents in the past where their average sale is really, really low. And then we have other agents that will go out and make the same number of sales, and they might write 2 or 3 or 4 times as much business when it comes to the AP. And so a couple years back, I started asking myself, what's the difference between these agents that sell large cases versus agents that sell primarily small cases? Is it the clients? Is it the area? What is it? And what it was is that the agents who typically sell bigger cases are offering clients bigger cases. And a lot of times, just because they're offering the clients bigger cases, the clients will buy it. The clients are generally going to select one of the 3 options that you give them. And typically speaking, especially if you're in the mortgage protection side of what we do, the average premium on the mortgage protection side is between $85 and $100 a month. And on the final expense side, it's generally between $50 to $70 a month. But if you're presenting clients on the mortgage protection side policies that are $40, $50, and $60, and they select one of those 3, you don't even know if they might have purchased a policy that might have been $100. And so we're going to teach you some ways where you can increase your AP. But a lot of times the best way to increase your AP is just to offer clients a bigger range instead of 3 policies that are so tightly packed as far as the cost per month. Maybe give them a range, maybe show them a policy that's $75 a month, one that's $125, and maybe one that's $150. And you have to make those adjustments specifically based on your client. If you're walking into a single wide trailer home, you're probably not going to show the client a policy that's $150 a month. But if you're walking into, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home where the client just purchased it and it's a $200,000 house, you'll show them a greater range of products. So just always pay attention to who you're sitting in front of and make some adjustments there. Okay. I read an article several years ago about McDonald's, and I like to read business articles because a lot of times it gives me insight into what we might be able to do different that will help our business. But the article talked about how in the 1990s, McDonald's was struggling to turn a profit, and for the first time ever in the history of their company, they had a quarter of the year where they had actually taken a loss. And with one simple phrase, they turned it around completely. And that phrase was, "Would you like fries with that?" After that came the value meals where people order by number. They would just say, "Give me a number 1," which of course already included the fries, and the rest is history. The same article was talking about Southwest Airlines and how Southwest Airlines, I don't know if you've ever flown on Southwest Airlines, but every single seat on Southwest Airlines is identical. But they raised their revenue on an annual basis by 100 million people by allowing 15 people per flight to purchase Business Select passes, which basically allows them to board ahead of everyone else. Upselling has been an effective way to boost sales in many industries, including life insurance. So one of the most simple ways to upsell is to offer your client more coverage during the application process. So you've already gone through the in-home presentation, you've shown them 3 options, and they selected one. So maybe they're buying, as an example, a $5,000 final expense policy for $32 a month. And you're in the middle of the application, you get to the page where you're putting in the face amount, and you ask a simple question. Would you like to make it an even $40 per month, which would buy you a $7,000 policy, or $7,000 in coverage? Now, $8 per month might not seem like a lot of money, but what if you did that in 5 homes and 3 of them said yes? Now you've picked up $24 a month, which is 288 AP, and this little extra just paid for your leads. This is a concept that you see a lot in grocery stores these days. They'll be raising money for breast cancer awareness or something like that, and they'll ask you to round up your purchase. So if you make a purchase and it's $28.10, they'll say, would you like to make it at even $29, and we'll give the other 90 cents to breast cancer awareness. So just these little upsells can make a huge difference. Selling riders. One of my favorite ways to increase my AP is through selling riders. I rarely ever sell riders during my initial presentation. I wait until I get to the rider section of the application where you actually have to check the boxes and determine what rider you want. But I get to that point of the application after the client has already made the purchase. On average, I'm able to sell about $10 a month in riders when I'm doing a mortgage protection term policy. You know, the insurance companies offer these great riders, and most of the time they're not presented because agents don't know what they do. And some of these riders, these are some of the riders, but go ahead and learn them all. It's really important to understand how these riders work. In fact, I'm going to talk about 3 great riders here: the accidental death rider, the waiver of premium rider, and the children's term rider. And I can tell you, I had never, ever sold a waiver of premium rider for probably the first 3 years I was in the business because I did not understand how the rider worked. Now that I know how this rider works, I sell it all the time. People sell what they know, so get to know these riders. Now, the accidental death rider is the most simple rider we offer. It doubles the face amount of the policy in the event of an accidental death. And a lot of times, it'll be $6 or $7 or $10 a month, something like that. Now, accidental death riders do have a maximum age. Sometimes it'll be 55 years old, so if you're meeting with a 65-year-old, the rider may not be available. That's why I always say, wait until you get to that point of the application, because the riders that are available, the box will be, you'll be able to check it, especially on an e-application. But if the box is grayed out, then you know you can't sell that particular rider for one reason or another. Maybe it's an age restriction or something like that. Now, the waiver of premium rider is an absolutely fantastic rider. Now, keep in mind this rider, again, has age restrictions, and it has the same underwriting criteria as the disability income rider, so not every client's going to qualify, and it's good to know, you know, when you can offer this particular rider. But this is the least understood rider, and it's extremely powerful. It might be the most powerful rider that we offer. The only caution on this rider is that it may come with some more restrictive underwriting, the same as disability rider, which I covered that. Now, this rider will reduce the client's premium to $0 per month if they become disabled for as long as they remain disabled. Now, the reason this is so powerful is because term policies can be renewed until the age of 95. In every single situation, they can always be renewed till 95. So let's say you're meeting with a 30-year-old client. They have a 30-year term. Policy is going to last until they're 60 years old. They can continue that policy until they're 95 years old. The problem is the level term period has now expired, and every single year they're going to see a significant jump in premium. And the first jump in premium that they're outside of their level term, the premium is going to go up by a factor of 1,000% on average. So if they're paying $50 a month, it might now be $500 a month, because now they're older, and the insurance companies really don't want these clients to extend beyond that point. And so it's a understatement to say that the problem is the premiums are going to skyrocket after the level term period of 15, 20, or 30 years. I looked at my own 30-year term, which I have a 30-year term with a return of premium rider, and it goes up, like I said, by about a factor of 1,000%. But this rider pays all of those skyrocketed premiums as well, all the way to age 95. So essentially, it's giving them free coverage for the rest of their life if they become permanently disabled. And in fact, I met with a client about 4 years ago who told me that he had a life insurance policy and he didn't have to pay on it again for the rest of his life. And I had him pull that policy out. And sure enough, he had a waiver of premium rider, and he became permanently disabled, and all the premiums are waived. So he's got a $100,000 policy he's not paying a dime for. When I saw that for the first time, I thought, man, that's really awesome. I didn't even realize it at the time that we had the ability to offer the exact same thing, because I didn't understand what this rider did at that point. Now, the children's term writer can give their kids a term policy for a period of time for very little premium. And on some of our final expense policies, death benefit. So you might be able to help a grandparent or a parent cover a terminally ill child or a child that is totally disabled. These term policies can be converted to permanent coverage when the child comes of age. So think about this. Do you know anybody that has a terminally ill child or a severely disabled child? Well, they can't qualify for a children's policy on the child themselves. Sometimes you may find that the desire to get coverage in place for some of these, unfortunate children might be such a big concern that maybe a parent or a grandparent will buy a policy for the sole purpose of getting coverage on their child. And so having a guaranteed issue children's term rider or children's whole life rider built into some of these plans, like Eagle Premier. That's a good example. Americo's Eagle Premier. If they do a children's rider, the child they don't have to answer any health questions whatsoever on that child's policy. Okay, add-on sales. Add-on sales are a powerful way to help the family get additional protection, and we will cover most of them in the next few slides, such as Medicare sales, Indexed Universal Life, which is IULs, annuities, children's policies, accidental death policies. It's important to note that confused clients do not buy. They think about it. So do not try to move into add-on sales until you have completed the initial sale. Remember that clients work with people they trust, and if they have asked you to come to their home to help them with final expense, and you find out that they need help moving a $100,000 annuity, and you jump right into that sale, you'll lose their trust immediately, and you'll have no chance of making either sale. Many of these add-on sales can be done at the point of sale, but some of them need to be done at a later date. If you uncover a need, you will need to BAM-FAM or book a meeting from a meeting and come back. Don't worry if you don't know how to sell these products. If you master setting the appointment, you will have time you need to learn the product and get ready for presentation. The simplest way I know to book these types of appointments is to simply say, I know I can help you with that, but I didn't actually come here today to talk about that. I'm going to be out here in this neighborhood again next week. I'll come back and help you with that at the same time, same place. Now here's a little story. The very first sale I ever made in the insurance industry, the very first sale, all I knew how to say was, I didn't come here to help you with that, but I can come back next week. Someone had taught me that in a training that I had attended. And I made a phone call on a mortgage protection lead, went to the guy's house, and he basically said, oh, this is life insurance. I don't want that. And I asked him, well, why is that? And he said, well, the reason why is I don't have any children. I'm not married. I don't care what happens to the house. If the bank takes it back, so be it. I'm not leaving it to anybody because I don't have anybody. And I'm like, oh, great. But I knew enough to ask other questions. I said, well, we also help people with other things such as disability and retirement, those kinds of things. Maybe something like that would be of interest to you. And he said, yeah, disability, definitely. And this guy was a military guy. He's already got some disability issues. He's got some back problems. He had PTSD from serving in the war overseas. And I knew nothing about the products whatsoever, but I said, I know I can help you with that, but I didn't actually come here to talk to you about that today, so I tell you what, I'll come back same time, same place next week, and I'll help you with the disability. So I leave, I go back, do my homework, talk to my mentor, and he said, well, you know, he probably wants disability for all of these issues that he's dealing with, like the PTSD and back issues, and writing a disability policy is going to exclude any pre-existing conditions, but here's what it looks like. I'm like, okay. So I go back a week later, sit down with the client, and I explain to him that these pre-existing conditions are not going to be met by any policy we put in place, but we can put a policy in place that covers everything else. And he said, well, hey, I don't need that. I need something that's going to help me with these issues because I already know I'm probably going to end up disabled from one of these two issues or maybe even both of them. So it doesn't do me any good to buy a policy that doesn't cover those. And I said, oh, okay. I said, well, let me ask you this. Are you trying to retire early? And he was about 40 years old at the time. He said, yeah. He goes, I want to retire I'm 55. I said, well, you're 40 now. That's 15 years from now. So you want to retire by the time you're 55. He said, yes. I said, great. Well, I didn't actually come here to talk to you about that today. So I'll come back same time, same place next week, and we'll see if we can help you with that. And sure enough, I came back the next week, and I wrote a $500 a month IUL. And so just mastering this one simple question, it'll give you 7 days to get with your mentor, figure out what products, figure out how to present it, learn how to do it, and move forward. Don't waste your time trying to learn all these products. Instead, master this one question, and if you don't know how to help them, book a meeting from a meeting and come back and help them. So I ended up meeting with that client Monday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 weeks in a row, and I ended up writing a policy for over $500 a month just because I mastered that one question. And at the time I met with him the first time around, I didn't even know what an IUL was. When I met with him the first time, I didn't even know how our disability policies worked. I knew nothing about those things. And so just master this question and we'll get you trained up before that meeting actually happens. Okay, let's talk about some cross-selling opportunities that can help you boost your AP. Medicare is a great opportunity, especially for agents that are selling final expense. Most of the time you meet with a client on a final expense appointment, they're already 64.5 years old or more. So most of them are either about to make a decision about their health coverage, or they're either about to or they've already made a decision about their health coverage. And as Brandon Clay, the health sales vice president of One Life America, we had him on one of our calls a couple of weeks ago, often says, Medicare products are harder to learn but easier to sell than final expense. And older clients know the value of health insurance coverage and will not go without it. Many of your lower income clients, regardless of age, also have the option to purchase Medicare Advantage policies that have $0 in monthly premium, and these policies are completely paid for with the client's Medicare Part A and Part B, so you still get paid all the same. If you're brand new to insurance sales and it seems overwhelming to learn a completely new product line, we have an in-agency referral program where you can still get paid for these by simply asking one question and referring to the case to a Medicare specialist. So learn this question. Mr. and Mrs. Client, our company partnered with Heartland Financial Group, America's largest Medicare insurance agency. They do business with over 20 companies that specialize in Medicare supplements and Medicare Advantage programs. Would it be okay if I had a Medicare specialist call you and help you save money on your health insurance? Who doesn't want to save money on their health insurance? Everybody does. You ask that one question and you don't have to do anything else. And as time goes by and you master one area of business, maybe you start with final expense like 90% of our agents do, then you can move into the Medicare and Medicare Advantage down the road. All right, Indexed Universal Life. Indexed Universal Life. The biggest tip I can give you about IULs is to read the book Tax-Free Retirement by Patrick Kelly. IULs are an unbelievable vehicle to put money away for the future. So this is basically someone setting up a retirement program where they're socking money away and it's growing with interest and so on and so forth so that they can one day access that money for their retirement. People who are in one of 3 different phases for retirement. They're either in the accumulation phase, which is the beginning. You know, someone could start the accumulation phase when they're, 5 years old or 15 years old or 25 years old. That means they're saving money for retirement. The last phase of, or the phase in between is the growth phase. So now they've got some money saved up. They want that money to compound with interest over time. And then the final phase is the distribution phase. The IUL is for the client who is in the accumulation phase. They don't have money yet for retirement. They want to have money for retirement, and they need to start saving. So that's who these clients are. We offer IULs from several different companies, including the #1 and the #2 best IUL carriers in the country, and bar none. And those 2 companies, for those of you who are curious, are National Life Group and North American. The 2 of them have products that are extremely competitive with each other, but they stand far and above all the other IUL companies out there. The most important thing to understand about IUL sales is your target market is generally people below the age of 50, and in some unique circumstances up to age 55. So if you've got a 55-year-old that's in tremendous health and they've got tremendous cash flow and they're going to retire, let's say at the age of 70 because they love what they do, they might be a target for an IUL. Remember that IULs are typically for accumulating money for retirement, and a 50-year-old person has approximately 15 years until they will be retiring, which is the minimum number of years a client will need to contribute. And why is that? It's because anytime you're putting money into an IUL, there's going to be a surrender penalty if the client starts withdrawing ahead of that 15-year mark, and we obviously don't want to set somebody up to fail. Obviously, the more time they have to contribute, the more money they can set aside. So the younger, the better. Now, here's the key: IULs are even great for kids. We can show people a program that we call the $1 Million Baby, where a parent or a grandparent can set aside as little as $50 or $100 per month, depending on the age of the child. The younger they are, the less it's going to take, and potentially create a fund that will have over $1 million for their child by the time the child is age 65. It's absolutely phenomenal. Cross-selling opportunities, annuities. Why sell annuities? Why sell any of these products? Well, when you're selling life insurance policies, the average commission might be $700 a piece. The average commission in the annuity sales and in the IUL sales, for that matter, is roughly $3,000. So when you find one of these sales, it's going to be a much bigger commission, and sometimes it's a lot bigger. I recently sold an annuity that generated a $20,000 commission. Now, annuities are a powerful option for older clients. The biggest fear of our older generation is running out of money, and the second biggest fear is death. And we can help eliminate their biggest fear with the power of annuities. You know, annuities are simply an interest-bearing account with an insurance company as opposed to like a bank or a CD or something like that. And we are proud to bring you the very best annuity products in the market. Remember that these products are for clients that have already accumulated retirement funds. These clients either have a 401k, a bank CD, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or maybe cash in their checkbook. And there are two primary types of clients that need annuities. Clients that want income for life guaranteed, because on a side note, annuities are the only way a person can put a lump sum of cash aside and guarantee for the rest of their life the money will not run out. It's the only product in the market that does that. If they've got their money in stocks and bonds and mutual funds and they're making systematic withdrawals, their broker may tell them, well, this money should last you for the rest of your life. But all it's going to take is one more crash in the market and half their retirement funds could evaporate overnight. And then if they continue to make those withdrawals at the same pace, they could very easily run out of money. And what we know is that in the past, people didn't see those crashes coming. We had a crash in 2000 that happened because of what happened on 9/11 after that terrorist attack. Well, yet when people tell me that they've got their money in stocks and bonds, I show them a graph that talks about that crash, and I ask them, do you think it's possible we may have another terrorist attack in the future? Most older people don't think that it's just not only possible, they automatically assume it's going to happen. And so if the market crashed by 40% in 2001 after the terrorist attack, ask them this question: how much of your money can you afford to lose? Now, if they tell you none, they're in the wrong product if they're in the stock market or if they're in bonds, mutual funds, and stuff like that. So the second reason people, the type of client that needs an annuity is clients that want safety for their money above all else. So if you ask that question, how much of your retirement savings can you afford to lose? And the answer is none. They need your help. If your client has money but they do not fall into one of these categories, then annuities are probably not a good fit. But if they do fall into these categories, then it's a perfect fit because these annuity products are so incredibly powerful for these two needs. So how do you cross-sell annuities? Well, you have to ask people questions that's going to uncover the fact that they've got money in one account or another. And so a lot of times if I'm sitting down with them on a mortgage protection lead, or if I'm sitting down with them on a final expense lead, I'm going to ask them, if we don't do anything else here today to help protect your family, do you have a backup plan? What do you have that could offset this mortgage? What do you have that could pay for these funeral expenses, such as a 401k, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, cash in your mattress? And just by asking the question, the people will give you the answer. So I always ask that question. Next one, cross-selling opportunities for children's policies. Children's policies are a great way to help protect your family for a very small amount of money. And often your clients just need to know that you offer these types of plans and you will automatically make the sale. Some parents do not understand the benefit of covering their children, and the most common objection is that they do not want to profit from the death of their child. I tell them that this policy is not for that this policy will last for the child's entire lifetime, and that way they do not have to worry about qualifying when they are older. I had a brother-in-law who was 24 years old and came down with leukemia. Well, if he didn't have life insurance prior to that age, most 20-something-year-olds aren't looking to buy life insurance. Well, when he was 40 years old, he was trying to get life insurance, but because of the history of cancer he'd had, it was very, very difficult. Getting something in place before something like that happened would be a great way to prevent that. So, but that's the reason why it's important to get it so they don't have to qualify when they're older. But it also provides an immediate benefit so that, God forbid, their child dies, they can take the time they need to grieve and go back to work on their own schedule, not based on needing a paycheck. That is the power of these types of policies. Let them know that you offer plans like the Gerber Life Grow Up Plan after you've made the initial sale. Most people have heard of that plan because Gerber does a very good job of marketing their products on TV. But IULs are a great option as well for children. So if they show interest in the Gerber plan, I'll simply say, we also have a policy for kids that's like Gerber on steroids. In fact, we have a program called the $1 Million Baby that will allow you to not only cover your kids, but to help them have over $1 million when they retire. Is that something that would be interesting to you? And if they say yes, bam, fam it, and come back and show them how that works. Cross-selling opportunities. Accidental death policies. Now, typically speaking, when we walk in the door, accidental death isn't what we're going to lead with because it's not real life insurance. Most of the time when people die, it's not going to pay a death benefit. But sometimes clients just do not believe that they will die unless it's a catastrophic accident, people who are extremely healthy. And these clients are a good fit for accidental policies. Another reason to sell accidental death is to cover the remaining amount of their mortgage in the event that the client is too old or too sick to buy a policy that will cover their entire mortgage amount for, let's say, a mortgage protection lead. So if they buy a policy for mortgage payment protection, which let's say that's a final expense type product, or what we call an impaired risk product, maybe they've got a $200,000 mortgage, but we write a $20,000 final expense policy that's designed for mortgage payment protection, often they'll want to cover, or often they will want an accidental policy to cover the remaining amount of the mortgage. So you're sitting down with somebody, they have a $200,000 mortgage, you give them a $20,000 maybe Americo Eagle Premier Series and a $180,000 accidental death product. That's extremely easy for them to qualify. So that might be another option for you to add on some additional sales. Referrals. Referrals are free leads, and you should ask every client for referrals. There is a great book called The Referral of a Lifetime by Tim Templeton that will help you generate referrals. Another option is to look within the home, and sometimes you will find referrals if you just ask. I've sold countless policies to people who were just there when I was doing the presentation. I learned this by going out. I'd been in the business for about a year, and I was out of town visiting a friend who's in the business, and he asked me if I wanted to go with him on a couple in-home presentations. I had nothing better to do. It wasn't really that I felt like I was going to learn anything. At that point, I was kind of arrogant and thought that I knew just about everything I needed to know. but I reluctantly went with him on these 2 appointments. And in the first appointment, he goes in there, and it's a husband and wife, and it was a mortgage protection lead. Well, he walks out with a policy on the husband, a policy on the wife, a policy on the wife's mother who lived in the home for final expenses. So he got a referral right there in the exact same home, and the lady was just sitting across the room, and when he was done with his presentation, and he completed the initial sale. He didn't bring it up and try to confuse people. He completed the initial sale. He just said, hey, ma'am, I was just wondering, have you thought about getting some life insurance? And she said, yeah, you know, I thought about getting one of those funeral plans. I saw some stuff on TV. Next thing you know, he's sitting down next to her on the couch writing up a final expense policy. So pay attention. I will often sell final expense policies to elderly parents living with younger clients that I'm meeting for a mortgage protection. Or maybe you're meeting with a client on final expense and they live with their children, but you're there to see them for their final expenses. You can talk to the son or the daughter and say, by the way, I do term policies, I do mortgage protection, I do children's policies, I do annuities, I help people set up their retirement. Is any of that possibly of interest to you? And you'll be surprised how often the answer is yes. So a simple way to get referrals, just ask. The average agent in this business just picks up and runs for the door after they make a sale. Don't be average. Ask for referrals. Ask them if they want to buy riders. Ask them if they want to buy more coverage. Ask them if their kids need coverage. Ask them what they're doing with their safe money. Ask them if they're saving for retirement or want to start saving for retirement. Ask them if they have a Medicare plan. If you just ask the questions, you'll find tremendous opportunity in this wonderful business. I hope that helps, guys. And with that being said, I'm going to end the recording, and I hope you have a great day.